In this video, we're going to talk about positive and negative exponents. Now, we all know that x squared means x times x, and that something like 3 squared means 3 times 3. That's not very difficult, but sometimes when you start dealing with things like x to the 6th power and all these bigger exponents than this, they expect you to be able to manipulate the exponents very easily. So I'm going to show you a couple of rules as you go along. Let's talk first, because if you want to write rules, let's say we're going to multiply. So let's say we had x to the 4th times x to the 3rd. The rule is you add them together. So that becomes x to the 7th power. So if you had y to the 5th times y to the 2nd, again, you would have y to the 7th power in this case, because you add the exponents together. Y to the 10th times y to the 5th, y to the 15th. An easy skill, but expected for you to know this, that's not given to you in any of the equations. So the opposite must be true. If you're going to divide, then that means you're going to subtract. So if you have x to the 5th divided by x to the 3rd, the answer is subtract 5 minus 3 is x to the 2nd. Let me prove it to you real quick. You never have time to do this, but x to the 5th means x times x times x times x times x. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over x times x times x, I have an x that marks out an x, another one, and another one. What's left? X squared. That's why the math works. But you don't have time to do that, so it's simple subtraction. So what if you have x to the 10th divided by x to the 5th, you have x to the 5th power. So when you're multiplying, you add the exponents. When you're dividing, you subtract. What happens if you have something with parentheses? X to the 2nd raised to the 3rd power. In this case, power raised to a power, you're going to multiply this time. So this becomes x to the 6th power. There's the answer. So I have x to the 5th to the 4th power. That's x to the 20th power is my answer. Okay? Not difficult, you just have to know the rules. If you have anything x to the 0, anything to the 0 power is automatically 1. So you have 5 to the 0 power, that's a 1. X squared to the 0 power, automatically 1. Okay? It automatically defaults to the 1 power. Okay? The only one that you haven't probably seen very much is one like this. X to the minus 2. And we know what x squared is, but the minus 2, whenever they have a minus, a negative power there, it's going to always be a notation for a fraction. So what you're going to do is take x, put it over 1 over x, and square it. So the negative means it flips to the bottom spot. So what if you had something like 1 over x to the minus 2? Well, if the negative power means you're going to move it to the other side, so that becomes, it's on the bottom, it's going to move to the top, x squared. So these negative powers means basically if it's on the top, it goes to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, it goes to the top. So let's try a couple of these functions together and see if we can figure them out. Okay? Many times they expect you to do it quickly, and the instructions are to simplify. So let's say you have 3x to the 6th times x squared y to the 3rd to the negative 2nd. And they want you to simplify. Well, first, I see a power to a power, which means I'm going to multiply. And so order of operations, I got to do that first. So I can't touch this yet. But x squared squared, so that's x to the minus 4th. Notice how I multiply. Y to the minus 6th. See how I multiply? Now those are negative exponents, which means they're on the bottom. So it becomes 3x to the 6th, and it becomes 1 over x to the 4th, y to the 6th. Notice how they both move to the bottom. 3x to the 6th is the same as over 1. So basically, when I put it all together, I get 3x to the 6th over x to the 4th, y to the 6th. 4 of those, take 4 of those out, so I subtract and have y x second left. 6 minus 4 is 2. So it's 3x to the 2nd over y to the 6th. Or can be written 3x squared y to the minus 6th. Both of those answers are acceptable. If you missed that, back it up, watch that part again. Not too difficult, but you're playing with those powers. Sometimes you multiply, sometimes you divide. Here's another one. Let's do x to the 5th, y to the minus 3rd, times x to the minus 2, y to the second. Okay, so I like taking the negatives out, so really that means x to the fifth over y to the third. See how I did that? That goes to the bottom. Inside here, x to the second's on the bottom. It's a negative power. Y to the second must be on top. When I put them together and I'm going to multiply, I can see that there are 2 x's here and 5 there, so that subtracts. I have an x to the third that's left. Subtract those, there's 1 extra down here, y to the 1 on the bottom, so there's my answer. Or it could be written x to the third, y to the minus 1. Again, both of these are the same thing. I bet you got that one. Good. Here's another one for you. What happens if they throw some numbers in there? 8x to the third minus 2x squared minus, inside minus, x to the minus 6. Whew, what are they doing to us? Well, I see the negative power here, so I'm going to take 8x to the third, and actually I can multiply quicker than that. The numbers multiply, so that's minus 16. Okay, so those are gone. I'm just marking them out as I go. If I multiply, that means I add. That's x to the fifth. And then I'm going to multiply that by minus x to the sixth. So that means I have a minus 1 over x to the sixth on the bottom. So negative 16 times, minus 16 times minus 1 is 16. X to the fifth over x to the sixth. Subtract. There's 1 left on the bottom, so that's 16 over x. Or 16x to the minus 1. Both of those work. Okay? So you're manipulating your values. So notice how I move things to the bottom. I knew to subtract when I'm multiplying. I subtract that left 1 on the bottom. And it's all simplifying, marking things out. Okay? Here's one more for you. If you were doing one in which you had something like x to the sixth, y to the second equals y to the 24th, and they want to know what x is equal to. Well, if I'm doing that, if I want x by itself, that means I'm going to divide by y to the second. It's gone on that side. X to the sixth is, let's see, if I divide, I subtract, right? And so that becomes y to the 22nd. To do that, I'm going to take the sixth root of that, so that becomes x. So the sixth root knocks out the power of 6. So x is going to be equal to y to the 22nd to the 6th power. Okay? And you can simplify if you wanted to, but you can do y to the 22 to the 6th power. Okay? That's what you would look for. All right? In the next video, you're going to play around with some numbers yourself and simplify them. Let's see how you do.